Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. Summary: Wuthering Heights is a novel by Emily Brontë, published in 1847, that tells the passionate, tragic story of Heathcliff and Catherine Earnshaw, two individuals whose intense love defies social norms but ultimately leads to suffering and vengeance. Set on the Yorkshire moors, the novel explores themes of love, revenge, social class, and the supernatural, with complex relationships and dark emotions woven throughout the lives of two interrelated families, the Earnshaws and the Lintons. Plot summary. 1. Heathcliff's arrival and his bond with Catherine. The story begins with Mr. Lockwood, a tenant at Thrushcross Grange, recounting his visit to Wuthering Heights and his strange encounters with its inhabitants, including Heathcliff. Curious, he asks Nellie Dean, the housekeeper, to share the history of the Earnshaw and Linton families. Nellie's narrative takes readers back to the arrival of Heathcliff, a dark-skinned orphan adopted by Mr. Earnshaw, the master of Wuthering Heights. Mr. Earnshaw raises Heathcliff as his own, but this favor causes tension, particularly with Hindley Earnshaw, Mr. Earnshaw's son, who grows to despise Heathcliff. Despite this, Heathcliff forms a powerful, almost mystical bond with Catherine, Mr. Earnshaw's wild and headstrong daughter. Their relationship transcends friendship, becoming an all-consuming connection that defies conventional boundaries. 2. Heathcliff's mistreatment and Catherine's choice. After Mr. Earnshaw's death, Hindley inherits Wuthering Heights and exacts revenge on Heathcliff, treating him as a servant. This mistreatment only intensifies Heathcliff's anger and his desire for revenge. Despite her love for Heathcliff, Catherine is drawn to the refinement of Edgar Linton, the heir of Thrushcross Grange, a neighbouring estate. Catherine decides to marry Edgar for social status, confessing to Nellie that although she loves Heathcliff with all her heart, his lack of status would make it impossible for her to marry him. When Heathcliff overhears part of her confession, he is heartbroken and leaves Wuthering Heights, only to return years later, wealthy and determined to avenge the wrongs done to him. 3. Heathcliff's revenge. Upon his return, Heathcliff's personality has hardened, and he is consumed by a desire for revenge against those who have wronged him. He exploits Hindley's weaknesses, gambling with him until he gains ownership of Wuthering Heights. Heathcliff's revenge extends to the Lintons as well. He marries Isabella Linton, Edgar's sister, out of spite, knowing she is infatuated with him. Isabella's life with Heathcliff becomes a torment, as he treats her with cruelty, using her as a pawn to further his plans against Edgar and the Lintons. 4. Catherine's decline and death. Catherine's marriage to Edgar becomes strained by her enduring attachment to Heathcliff, and her emotional turmoil leads to a decline in her health. She becomes increasingly unstable, torn between her love for Heathcliff and her commitments to Edgar. In a feverish state, she confesses her undying love for Heathcliff, admitting that they are one and the same. Catherine's tragic passion ultimately leads to her death after giving birth to her daughter, Cathy Linton. Catherine's death devastates Heathcliff, who begs her spirit to haunt him, unable to bear life without her. Her death marks a turning point in Heathcliff's descent into bitterness, solidifying his desire to seek revenge on future generations. 5. Heathcliff's vengeance on the next generation. Heathcliff's cruelty extends to the children of the Earnshaw and Linton families. He manipulates the lives of young Hareton Earnshaw, Hindley's son, and Cathy Linton, Catherine's daughter. Heathcliff raises Hareton in ignorance and hardship, mirroring the way Hindley mistreated him. When Cathy Linton marries Linton Heathcliff, Heathcliff's sickly son, Heathcliff gains control over Thrushcross Grange, consolidating his revenge on both families by ensuring their suffering mirrors his own past. 6. Heathcliff's obsession and death. As the years pass, Heathcliff becomes increasingly haunted by Catherine's memory, losing interest in his quest for revenge. He begins to see Catherine's ghost and feels her presence everywhere, which drives him to the edge of madness. In his final days, Heathcliff becomes withdrawn, refusing food and water. He ultimately dies in Catherine's old room, his face showing a strange sense of peace, suggesting he believes he is finally reunited with Catherine. Heathcliff is buried next to her, fulfilling his wish to be with her in death, if not in life. 7. Resolution and peace for the younger generation. After Heathcliff's death, Cathy and Hareton, who have developed a genuine affection for each other, plan to marry and move to Thrushcross Grange. Their relationship offers a hopeful contrast to the toxic love between Catherine and Heathcliff, symbolizing the possibility of redemption and peace after the cycle of vengeance has ended. Wuthering Heights is left to them, suggesting a future free from the bitterness and rivalry that had plagued their families. Key themes. 1. Love and obsession. The love between Catherine and Heathcliff is intense and obsessive, defying social norms and morality. Their bond is both destructive and transcendent, showing the darker side of passion and the devastating impact it can have on others. 2. Revenge and cycles of vengeance. Heathcliff's desire for revenge becomes an all-consuming force that affects multiple generations. His mistreatment of Hindley, Hareton, Isabella, and Cathy reveals the destructive power of revenge and its tendency to perpetuate suffering. 3. Social class and isolation. The novel examines social class dynamics, particularly through Catherine's decision to marry Edgar for his wealth and status. Heathcliff's slow birth and lack of status fuel his resentment, driving him to seek control over Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange as a way to assert his worth. 4. The supernatural and haunting. Ghostly presences and haunting visions appear throughout the novel, suggesting that strong emotions and unresolved relationships can transcend death. Catherine's spirit seems to haunt Heathcliff, underscoring the inescapable nature of their love and the persistence of the past. Conclusion. Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë is a tale of love, revenge, and the destructive power of passion. Through the stormy relationship between Heathcliff and Catherine and the subsequent suffering inflicted upon their families, Brontë examines the impact of unbridled emotion and the complexities of human nature. Set against the wild, rugged Yorkshire moors, the novel's dark themes, haunting atmosphere, and tragic characters have made it a timeless classic, revered for its psychological depth and portrayal of love's ability to both uplift and destroy.